Welcome everyone to this regular scheduled meeting of the South Tahoe Community Board. If you would all please rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thanks everyone for coming. At this time, do you have any comments from the audience on non-agenda items? Oh, yes, we do. Thanks for coming. If you guys could just let us know your names.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I'm Sam Rudman.
And I'm Meredith Anderson.
We are here from the Sierra Nevada Alliance. Some of you may be familiar. It's a local nonprofit here in South Lake and in Truckee. Jenny Hatcher, our executive director, may be joining us at some point. Some of you guys may know her. So we are here to present today on some of the work we're doing for the city of South Lake Tahoe through this AmeriCorps Civic Spark program, and how we may be able to collaborate with you guys at STPUD.
All right, so we are Civic Spark Fellows. Civic Spark is the California Governor Initiatives program, AmeriCorps program created to build capacity within local governments and public agencies to deal with community resilience issues like climate change and water resource management. So at the beginning of our term, which is 11 months long, we work on a gap assessment to figure out where we're best needed, and then establish a work plan. So we are working with the city of South Lake Tahoe, and we were originally hired because of the 100% renewable resolution that was passed in 2017. So 100% renewable electricity by 2032 and renewable energy by 2050. And we've also been working with the 100% renewable committee. So some of the projects we've been working on with the city are an updated greenhouse gas inventory. So looking at community-wide emissions and CO2 equivalent, and then comparing that to the 2005 and 2010 baseline inventories for the bases that we have. And Melanie, thank you for being super helpful with all the data collection. That's awesome. And then we're also working on government operations emissions inventory as well, so looking at buildings and facilities specific to the city of South Lake Tahoe. And this will lead to reporting and forecasting for the future, and then also a climate action plan for the city. We're also working on energy efficiency projects, so doing LED sidewalk lighting retrofits to make it more financially attractive for the city, and like creating more reliable and low maintenance, longer lasting lighting.
So we've also been working on energy audits for the city, so we're actually boots on the ground going into city buildings and facilities with the help of a Liberty contractor, a professional energy auditor. We're looking for low-hanging fruit, so improvements that can be made low-cost or no-cost solutions. And these are efforts to help save the city money by reducing our energy consumption, as well as reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, and helping to make them more energy resilient and independent. So another step forward towards that is the work we've been doing with the Seed Solar program. So with the help of two nonprofits, we've analyzed a number of city facilities, properties, and sites for solar viability. So again, this is going to help them reduce their energy consumption from the grid. It'll help them be more energy independent and energy resilient. It's going to help them stay committed to those 100% renewable energy goals, and it's going to also help with the commitment from SB 32 to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in California. So we've actually been working on that Seed Solar project a little bit with STPUD as well. We took some of the data that we received from you guys to figure out which buildings or which sites might be most viable or have the potential to host solar. So all of those benefits that we mentioned to the city are ones that STPUD could benefit from as well. We would like to keep going forward with energy audits for STPUD as well, figure out where we can reduce costs for you guys. And again, those will all help towards the environmental and sustainability goals I think that STPUD has. So in the future, we're hoping to just help facilitate a partnership with the Alliance, with us, and potentially future Civic Sparkers, so that we can help break down some doors, really just work with the staff and helping out with the goals and targets that you guys have set for sustainability and environmental-wise. So thank you all for having us today. If you guys have questions or want to reach out, feel free to make notes of us as well, so we'd be happy to talk more.
Have you had a meeting with staff on this subject yet?
With SCP?
Yeah.
We've been in communication with Nick Exlund, but we haven't been able to meet her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I think you might want to, you can talk to John, our general manager, Shannon, who's not here today, or AGM. We've done something almost every year I've been here in terms of having independent firms come in and look at things. And as you know, we are actually a power producer in Markletville. So talking with staff and to get you guys up to speed on what we've already done might be a good idea.
That would be fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, I'll get your contact information and we'll chat soon.
Sounds great.
Thank you so much for coming, for giving a presentation, and I've been working with them for other things they've been doing with the city and the school district, and I can speak both to their ethic, their professionalism, and what they're able to accomplish. So I think any partnership that could conceivably exist between the Civic Spark Fellows, future Civic Spark Fellows, and the district would be a wonderful opportunity. Thank you again for coming and speaking.
Yeah, thank you all for having us.
Thank you.
You guys did good. You tried to know that you had a top 5-minute time limit, and you squeezed right under. Okay, do we have any corrections to the agenda or the calendar? And I'm not hearing any, so let's get going on a motion on that.
I move adoption of the consent and the agenda.
Okay, 5-0. Thank you all. Which brings us to 6A, and I believe that's Mr. Bledsoe. Talking about staff, you didn't get to, you got muscle.
Good afternoon. Back in 2015, the board at that time authorized 4 limited term positions because of several projects that we had going on, mainly the rear project was at its height at the time. And today, as you can see from the job description just below, we would like to extend those limited term positions until December of 2021. That will actually give us an opportunity to get through the bigger project, because there's several other projects going on, including some maintenance issues that we're dealing with as well. As you can see from the job descriptions that we've listed below, we kind of talked about that in detail, about what each of these positions are doing. So today we're just asking staff to authorize a limited term position, at least limited term contracts for these 4 positions.
Anybody have any comments?
Yeah, I reached out to Tim earlier in the week to discuss kind of the cost breakdown per position. And then I kind of did further calculus to see what that was a month, what that was a year. So you're tracking somewhere between $110,000 and $115,000, including the CalPERS per year per position. When this was originally approved, was something provided to the board that showed comparables both to other utility districts and to other localized agencies as it relates to similar functions to meet salary compensation. It's so fantastic. If not, ideally we'd like to be able to include that into future staff reports, because one of the things I heard most frequently from consumers is concern about cost. And so want to be able to have the information within the staff reports to be able to inform them that the salaries being offered are commensurate with other utility districts in the area and with other regulatory agencies. Looking at the books, I understand that that's common practice, but having that information kind of broken down in staff reports is really helpful to move that forward when those questions arise.
Yeah, and I have, I think, some response on these 4 particular positions. Let's see. 2 of them are pre-existing positions. So while we added these limited term ones to coincide with the completion of the meters project, those positions and their salary levels were already on the books. And so they are matching those pre-existing levels. The other 2 positions were created as part of this meter project, so the meter tech and the meter project installation coordinator. And those two positions were actually tied because of the similarity of duties and responsibilities of those positions to an existing position. So while no, there wasn't a outside study done specifically when we brought these 4 positions to the board originally, that has been done in the past several times for the existing positions.
So, Nick, I can clarify that a little bit. Those positions actually used to be temporary positions run through the substitute, I believe. Is that not correct?
Yes. I think some of this work was.
And what happened is the way that the taxes or the costs of those employees changed, which then made long-term temporary employees more cost-effective than temporaries, which is what we did in 2015. So there was an analysis done at the time, but it was based on a comparison between temporary individuals and long-term temporaries, which ultimately Paul could probably even comment on that because he probably has a better memory than me. Saved us money.
As he shakes his head. So these 4 positions, we're actually in the middle of our coming up soon on a new salary survey, right? So these positions will be part of that, right?
Yes, at least the positions that they're tied to.
Yes. I think there's 2 positions that are not tied to this cost study.
And so the financial information we provided to you as part of this agenda item are based on what they're earning today, what the top of those ranges are.
You consult with the union on these positions?
Not for this request,
This one.
but...
We did in 2015.
Yes, we have.
And I apologize, I was to some degree utilizing this particular agenda item as just a vehicle for the discussion.
Sure.
So it's more kind of looking forward than retroactively. And so, yeah, I mean, fundamentally, again, it would just be, FDPUD's salary range, comparable utility district salary range, and conceivably other agencies who think ECRP of the city or so on and so forth within similar projects. So that way you can have an analysis to see kind of cross-section, this makes sense, so that when the consumer asks, you can say definitively that it has been evaluated and in fact we are in line with what other utility districts provide.
Yeah, just for you to expand on that a little bit. So these positions are tied to positions that have had salary surveys completed upon them. And that salary survey compares total compensation to other comparable agencies in the basin and around California as well, similar to the salary survey that we're doing currently.
And then another quick aside, and this is less as it relates to the salaries, but out of curiosity, what is kind of the volume you're getting from interaction with the community as it relates to the customer service representative, and less so from a usability of the representative standpoint, but my curiosity was, has the kind of interaction remained constant as you've gone through the metering process, or have you seen it begin to taper off? And I guess where I'm going with this is that, every neighborhood you get into, is that a fresh batch of complaints, or people kind of become acclimated to the idea that meters are here and they're going to be installed?
Are you asking more about the customer service position or about the meter project coordinator?
Customer service position.
Okay. On the customer service position, what you've seen since we've put meters in the ground is an increase in the maintenance aspect of it. So basically what we had to do is we did a reorg to move some people around to help focus on the meter maintenance issue, the retrofitting, doing meter testing as required by state law and all those things. And by doing that left 2 full-time customer service reps with 1 limited term. And so my other limited term is meter technician, which is on average right now maintaining about 400 meters a month. So it's consistent. I mean, it's pretty consistent with workload.
Tim, can you just touch a little bit on the overall increase in telephone volume over the last several years?
Yeah, as far as the telephone volume, we've probably increased on the year, probably 4,000 or 5,000 more calls than what we normally get. And basically, it's especially with the newer meters that are going in, a lot of that it's a learning curve for a lot of people because they don't, number one, they don't understand why the bill's so high, why their monthly bill is so high, then we have to explain to them that it's a quarterly bill. And then, once we explain to them how our rates are set up, for example, on an 80-20% ratio, that's why they see a high cost and then a low cost per consumption.
So that 5,000 calls, with 95% are supported with meters?
I would say so, because
Oh, really?
about, most of those calls are second homeowners, and they want to go on the consumptive rate as soon as possible. Yeah.
That's actually much better than...
I love it with sarcasm.
You're right, Ray.
Along the line of the meters, I've had several people just last week say some nice things about the new smart thing.
Yeah.
People live out of the area that are there all the time, and I'm glad to be able to see that, something does happen.
Yeah, we have had a lot of good praises on the Water Smart program. Currently, we've got about 7,800 people enrolled in it. So it's been a good tracking device, especially for second homeowners. And of course, our customer service specialist monitors that daily to see if there is a break. It'll show how many hundreds of gallons of water is going through that meter per hour. So if it spikes, then she can give them a call and let them know, and they'll say, we're not there. So we'll immediately go out and turn the water off until somebody can come in and take a look at it. So it's been a really helpful tool for the customers.
No, as someone that's worked on sustainability for a long time, it's one of the more remarkable tools I've seen developers have.
Yeah, it really is.
Okay, if there's no other questions in discussion, anybody have a motion?
I'll move that we authorize staff to extend the limited term positions as follows: meter technician, customer service rep, junior engineer, and water meter installation coordinator.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Good job, guys. Oh, yes, Rocky Point.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Yes.
So, I'm here today with not great news. I am here to ask you that you reject all bids that were received on the Rocky 2 water line replacement project, and to authorize staff to go out to bid around September 2019, once we've received positive confirmation from the state that our funding package is complete and that we may proceed with construction. Just to give you a little bit of background, this is a approximately 4,000 linear foot water line replacement project in the area of Rocky Point Road, just downhill a little bit actually, off of Pioneer Trail. And this project is replacing undersized water lines and adding fire hydrants to an area that has fire protection deficiencies. This project is going to be funded by the California State Revolving Fund loan, and when we added this project to the package, we had to do the supporting environmental documentation. Well, we submitted that to the state in December. They've generally taken 6 months to complete the review and give us authorization to proceed with the work. And then the federal shutdown happened. And so because EPA needs to ultimately get sign-off on that environmental document, they've made no promises about when they will get to our environmental documentation in the queue. And so since the federal shutdown wasn't lifted until around the first of this month, that now looks at like an August start. Based on staff's past experience with projects of this size, It would take 15 to 20 weeks to complete the work, and there's just not enough time to do that in the 2019 season. So while it was a good bidding climate, we got the project out on the street early. We had 4 bidders out of, I think it was 6 general contractors that came to the pre-bid meeting. So we had a good result. The price of the bid was just under the engineer's estimate, and it was with Vincent Garrett Construction, a contractor that we've worked with previously, was the low bidder. We just don't feel confident in awarding the bid at this time because of the lack of funding if the state doesn't come through with authorization for the loan and the project to proceed. So if you have any questions?
I understand you asked the contractor if they would hold the price and push it off, and they weren't really open to that, so, which is understandable.
Yeah, they were foreseeing something like 4 to 5% escalation in price for postponing the project a year. Based on our bid history, we expect prices to be more like a 3% increase over the course of the next year, and then with the kind of uncertainty in the economy right now, the business climate might be different in the fall. So it seems to be in the district's best interest to just secure the funding first, make sure we have that in hand before we try for 2020.
And we also have a contract with a backup power source, right?
Sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just jumped ahead. Okay.
Throwing me a curveball there.
Never mind. Yeah, no, this is one we talked about. Rocky Point is what it is. We just keep patching. It's not like we're in imminent failures ahead on that or anything.
Yeah, this project was conceived back in 2012, 2013 timeframe. We started this design. So we've known that we have deficiencies in this area for a while, but, our funds have been focused elsewhere. And so, it has floated to the top. It is the highest priority water line replacement and upsizing project on our list. And so we do want to get to it as soon as we're able, but, we need to have the funds.
It's unfortunate that we have to put it back, kick the can down the road again, just because we have to rely on the state for funding. We don't have enough money to do it ourselves, so it's something we really need to be looking at in this budget period.
Okay. There's a motion on this one.
I'll move that we reject all bids and authorize staff to rebid the project in September 2019. Meaning the Rocky Point water replacement project, pending an authorization from the California State Revolving Fund.
Appreciate that. Stephen, I apologize, I jumped ahead, I was already getting to your deal, but give us the latest on the generator.
Sure. So I'm here today to ask the board to approve change order number 1 on the generator replacement project in the amount of $48,210.74 to Cal Electro. There are 6 items on this change order, and I'll briefly talk about the first 5. The 6th one is really the one I wanted to talk about the most. The first item was just in their bid, they had put money in one bid schedule that should have been in the other, so it's just to correct that. The second item was They had hired a welder to do some contract work on welding of abandoning some of our pipes in the treatment plant, and their welder was not good, to put it mildly. So our district staff stepped in and did the welding for the project, and we tracked the time so that we can back charge the contractor, and so that's what the second item is for. Third item is during excavation out by the new building site, they did hit a duct bank, electrical duct bank, and caused a power surge, which took power out to the facilities for a short time, and then also, once power was restored, we discovered there was some damage to a fire alarm control panel and also some of our radios. And so it's paid for replacements and repairs to those items. The fourth item is, during the course of the work, we decided to do some additional paving down in the breakpoint area. There was one spot that was surrounded by pavement, but it was gravel, and so we decided just to get that all paved so that it would be easier for snow removal for our crews in the winter, and also just not have that gravel area in the middle of the published paved area. It didn't really make much sense. So needed to adjust the quantities for paving for the breakpoint area on that item. The fifth item was in that same area, we didn't have guardrail around one of our ponds. So now that it's paved and people could park all the way up to the edge of the pond, we thought it would be a good idea to put the guardrail in there so that we don't have anyone inadvertently driving into our pond. And then the last item is the addition of an intermediate milestone for the project, as well as relaxation of a constraint in the project. And so, as you can tell by the progress that's been made out there, they haven't started on the building yet. The original schedule said that they would have had the walls of the building done in November. For various reasons, they didn't make that. And now with the winter we're having, it's become increasingly difficult to do construction. They are planning to do construction this winter, but it's been slow going, and with 5 feet of snow in the last week and a half, it's going to be even slower going for them to get off the ground and going. So as a result of this, we expressed our concern to them and asked that if we could add an intermediate milestone to have the new generator and switchgear online and operational by October 31st of this year. That way, we don't have to go through another winter on the old generator. And if they don't meet that date, they will be charged liquidated damages of $2,000 a day. And in return, we are allowing them to start work on the emergency pump station work prior to the generator being online. It previously told them they couldn't do it until then, but after talking with staff and looking at how we had sequenced that in the contract, we're comfortable relaxing that requirement and allowing them to start that work right after the 4th of July holiday. And so that is kind of the brief overview of the change order, and so if there's any questions, I'm willing to take them.
Must be pretty thorough. I'm not hearing a lot, all right?
Yeah, sure. I will move that we approve change order number 1 to Cal Electro Inc. in the amount of $48,210.74.
I'll second that.
Okay, 9-0. Thanks, Judith. Any questions?
I'll move approval of payment of claims in the amount of $2,164,519.30.
Second.
Great, 5-0. Do we have any standing and ad hoc committee reports? We do. We had a previous break. move to board member reports. Anybody got anything they want?
I guess I would just add, as the Civic Park folks alluded to earlier, that they had reached out to me. I invited them to come, but now that that interaction has taken place, the plan is to get their contact information to John, and then things go to the staff level as deemed appropriate. But like I said, again, really good folks, and so hopefully there's a positive partnership that can germinate there.
Okay. I had a brief report, I guess. Shannon and I were down in beautiful Palm Springs for the CASA deal. I was curious as to the chance on him. I think it's the first time he's been to CASA. I didn't really ask him what he thought of it, overall. For me, it was typical. I go every year, but one of the things I did go to, which was a little bit, interesting anyway, a big sanitation district down in the San Diego area was contacted by their regional water quality board, their equivalent of Lahontan, and basically told that they had to do a study to not to see if they were adding to, but to describe what their what portion of responsibility theirs was with groundwater pollution and eventually ocean pollution due to sewer pipe exfiltration, which is something that everybody at the meeting I was at said, oh, there's no such thing. But according to this regional water quality board, there is such a thing. And it was interesting that this large sanitation district, the legal department thought that the water quality board had absolutely no basis for asking that and wanted to fight it legally, but the water quality, the agency said, no, we're going to actually do the study. And their reasoning was that they were afraid if they didn't do it, somebody else would do it, and somebody else might have bad intent, and that bad intent might sway the results of that study. So the only reason I bring that up is we've got all kinds of lines in environmentally sensitive areas, crossing streams, that kind of stuff. And boy, that would be something if they came to us and said, I want you to tell us to what degree you're polluting the environment with your exfiltration. I don't have to tell all you, sewer lines aren't pressurized. The pressures are usually greater outside of the groundwater and all that. It's the other way it goes in. But anyway, that's
What's the timing on that study? Any idea?
They didn't even know that the agency that was doing it, they have no idea on how to do it. They have no way of testing it. So I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, a typical, and it's all based, I don't know, I didn't know we've done this, but these say they agree they're going to do it, and they're in the process of trying to figure out how to do it.
Buy a really cool camera truck and start doing it now like we are.
Yeah, but how do you know what's going out of the pipe? Yeah, that's the thing. So, anyway.
Soil monitoring.
Yeah. You can monitor the soil, but, you could check 3 foot below leach field on a septic system and there's nothing in there because there's natural things in the soil to break it down. So I don't know what's going to go with this, but anyway. That was my main takeaway. Otherwise, I think it's a fairly ordinary conference. Okay, is there anything going on with the water?
Meeting next week.
Next week. Cool.
I'll be there. Kelly, planning on, we'll go down. Sounds good, Wednesday.
Snow permitting?
You're driving, sounds like you're driving.
Yeah. And we'll have the animals dressed.
I have a question about El Dorado County, if I might. I was informed that the funds we receive from El Dorado County are utilized strictly for planning purposes.
Correct.
Is that correct?
At a 50% match.
At a 50% match. And then do we go forward to them once a year when projects are needed, or is there just kind of...
It's pretty much an annual process.
An annual process?
Yeah, that coincides with the fiscal year.
Okay.
And depending on how much money they get from year to year.
Fluctuates how much we get.
And actually, it's our money.
Right, which is ironic, right?
Yeah.
It's actually our money.
Yeah.
Quite the deal if you get it.
Yeah.
Just one thing to add with the water agency. I talked to Rick Lynn last week, and he's kind of doing a liaison now with the water agency. And they have talked about doing a study on electric vehicles. And they were thinking about using us first as an example, and then they did look at EID and the other water agencies.
In what way did they use us?
I'm sorry?
In what way would they use us?
Just to do an example of what could be done with electric vehicles that are currently...
I don't know if Shelley's even got her car yet. Not yet.
But I know we were in the process of getting one, or already had it, I'm not sure, but it would be done at the water agency's expense. It wouldn't come out of our allocation, and I think they'll probably be contacting you, or Ken Payne will be. Actually, I'll see Ken next week, and or the week after, actually. He's going to Washington also. So I can get more information on that.
We worked with Rick on similar projects about 6 years ago.
Yeah. Project.
That was part of it.
A bunch of alternatives at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
And separately on electrical charging stations, maybe putting one at the plant, at the casinos, out of Lyra's. So.
But at that time, we weren't really interested in doing it for vehicles, because we just didn't want to get one or two and then have to have all the equipment and stuff like that. But if we're going to have a fleet, they say that now they're doing bigger vehicles, that in the past have been using diesel and something like that. So they'd like to do that, and we'll hear more probably.
And interestingly on that, working with the school district, some of the grant funding that's available now for electric vehicles is astounding. I mean, the school district and everyone that contributed to that effort, obviously, looked to convert 3 of their buses to electric at no cost to the school district. And Liberty Utilities was able, via grant to them, to provide the infrastructure needed at the facilities for the charging. And so as California continues to move along these steps, grant money is available and money is cheap, relatively speaking. And so these mandates are going to continue to come from the state. And so looking to progress down these lines while both money, cheap, and grant funding is available, I think is very advantageous, because we all know how those things will go, and that money will dry up sooner rather than later. And we'll see where it goes.
Okay, thanks for the heads up on that, Jim. I've got a few items to go over here real quick, starting with a staffing update. Public Affairs Conservation Manager, we advertised for that position. That closed, I think, a couple weeks ago. We're currently reviewing 11 applications and are expecting interviews on March 8th. For Principal Engineer, that was a position vacated by when Julie got Engineering Department Manager. So that advertising period has closed, and we're planning on interviews on March 6th. Customer Service Representative, this is a position that was vacated when Star got the contracts administrator position in engineering. So we're refilling that vacant position. They'll go out for advertisements next week, I believe, is the plan. And we are currently advertising for underground repair water for a position that was vacated there, and that'll remain open until February 14th. And then we received a retirement notice for Alpine County for their recycled water lead position, so that's being advertised internally, and that'll close on February 19th. So we're keeping HR busy for sure. We appreciate their work. Budget process is next. Just a real quick update. This is, last week I met with Paul and Shannon. We reviewed all the budgets for all the departments, and previously all the departments had met with finance individuals. So this is really the third step in that process. So I'm taking a look at each one of those departments. I'm seeing a lot of heavy equipment coming forward, quite a bit of money there. So I've asked for and I've received some supporting information I'll be reviewing. And at DVR, talking to Jim about he wants to get some used equipment out there to support farming operations and help maintain our roads. So I'm going to be taking a look at that, request for that equipment. And I don't think Jim's here, but definitely a frugal guy, cost conscious, so he's looking at how we can minimize costs and maximize our revenues out there with farming and otherwise. So I'll be taking a closer look at that. And moving on to public outreach, been doing a lot of that thanks to Shelley. Shelley's really been driving that effort, really appreciate that, setting up contacts, developing talking points, developing, helping us put presentations together, so I really wanted to thank you for that, and it's being very well received around the community. So looking at since the last time I was here, about 3 weeks, a lot of information going to print. Shelley's been on the radio, I was on the TV. Mostly we're talking about district needs and related to the 218 process. And then we had the January 23rd meeting, which I gave you some information on, not super well attended. There's actually nobody from the public, and Jim was here from the board, so very lightly attended. And we have another public meeting tonight, of course, at 6 p.m. And we'll have the rate consultant will be here. If you're, I believe you're aware, we sent out just under 8,000 emails to our customers informing them of the meeting tonight and in general the budget process, the 218 process. So I think we'll talk more about those details. You want to talk about our response to those emails now, or we could do that tonight as well?
Just a quick summary, we sent out, we leave the water response system where we have the email addresses. Sent out about 7,800 emails to let everybody know about the workshop tonight, and so far there's been about 3,700 that have opened the email, seen it. So I think we've probably got more response from that than we have ever from the paper or the radio, so.
The reason you have those email addresses, is that for people who pay online, is that why you have those?
They pay online, but they also have an account set up through WaterSmart.
Okay, so one of those two ways is why you have emails.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
And we rarely email folks. We email folks if there's sewer spill in their area and we need to contact them, or for this public meeting where we're talking about raising rates. We try really consciously to not spam folks with emails, but the Tribune didn't publish our press release last week, and my concern was, even though we've been on the radio and the TV and it's on our website.
What was in, I think
It was South Tahoe Now. South Tahoe Now published it, but I was anxious that the Tribune didn't publish it, so we used this other tool in the toolbox, and we found that it's been an effective tool, so we'll use it again for really important public meetings.
I think it was the first time we did this mass email, correct?
Correct.
Very sparingly.
Cool. Wonder how many of those actually went into the spam folders.
I got one as well. And that response is looking at public outreach. They get that percentage of people to open your email is actually rather astounding. That's an incredibly high percentage for mass mailing from a utility district, or from anyone for that matter. So that's very positive.
Because they got one before there.
They were freaked out. What's going on?
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
So that's kind of a lesson, right? Don't abuse it. Use it like, oh, those guys are getting clipped.
Right.
Right, thanks for that. One more item on public outreach, and Melanie's put together about 25 letters to local agencies and service clubs, just offering if they'd like to have us come visit them, and again, talking about our water and sewer needs. So moving on to city presentation, the local water purveyors were at city council this Tuesday, so the district, Lukens, and Kurt was there from Tahoe Keys. So just an informational meeting to the new city council and some of the new faces at the city in general. And Lahontan was also there. We did about a 15-minute presentation of water purveyors, and then Lahontan did maybe a 10 or 15-minute presentation and took a lot of questions back and forth. In all, we were up there for about an hour, so there's a lot of questions, a lot of interest in the water purveyors, and especially PCE and what's being done. And I mean, there's a little heated on Lahontan and why the 30 years and what's, where's the progress there. So we heard some of that, and I think coming out of that, we're really in and I've met with Frank a number of times at City Council with that ad hoc meeting, really looking to expand our partnership with the city in a number of areas, coordinating on paving, their erosion control projects, getting their continued support for PCE, and in search of funding, and also on fire hydrants, signage on the hydrants, and after a snowstorm, how do those get dug out? We're not doing that. Lucas does just some of that, and then the ongoing maintenance and operation of the hydrants. That's a great area. Really nobody's doing that right now, and we're spending a lot of money putting those hydrants in. We've really been turning those over to the Lake Valley and City, to the fire departments, for them to operate and maintain and do flow checks, and that work's really declined over the recent years. So we're looking at this as an opportunity to engage the city and Lake Valley to fix those problems and take care of our hydrants. Next, I want to talk about a couple of hot meetings that I had in the last few weeks. First, I just met with Patty and Doug Smith, executive and assistant executive director at LaHont. And I think my take, I haven't worked with Patty a whole lot, but I've worked with Doug actually for over 20, my entire career here, 26 years. He was 20 years at TRPA and more recently at LaHont. So really just fortifying our relationship between the agencies. And they really wanted to reassure me about their accelerated process on cleaning up and attending to the PCE contamination issue. And they've fought for and got some additional funding so they could do their part of the work. So they wanted to reassure me on that, and really to build a strong partnership with the district to go to Sacramento and get funding for cleanup, not just for the treatment system, but also the ongoing maintenance and operations of a PCE treatment system. We install a treatment system, and it's probably going to be running for 20, 30 years, so the ongoing O&M could be huge. We're looking for funding down the road as well. And then the next day, we met separately with the PCE group, Scott Ferguson, and talked about some of the details of what they've been doing with the responsible parties and the results of the investigation. And I have something in closed session I want to talk to the board about, more about the PCE investigations. Moving on to the Lukens intertie. As you know, we're intertied with Lukens to help supplement their water needs while their wells are down due to PCE. And we have especially a valve and a meter there. We believe that it's a very old meter, 8-inch meter, and probably malfunctioning. We're not sure. We're getting parts. I think we'll have that repaired next week. But it's possible, and actually we expect that water at that intertie connection has gone both ways. So Lukens water likely has come into the district system. So just with an abundance of caution, we've done some sampling in our area, in our system, just checking on bacteria for PCE. All those results came back negative. So we're actively working to correct the metering problem.
Will they pay for that meter?
I think it's on the district to make the meter repairs as part of our service agreement. And I think we're talking a couple $1,000 to do the repairs. Somewhere around there. We do have, a broader issue with all our intertie locations is, we don't have a backflow preventer there. So we want a backflow preventer with a bypass so water can go both ways, but also kind of protect the district side from having other purveyors' water come into our system. That's something we're looking into. We did get a cost estimate from Lukens. We asked Lukens to get a cost estimate from Haynes, so it's about $20,000 to put a backflow preventer in at this location for an 8-inch. So
A backflow preventer plus a bypass, right? Because in case we wanted the water the other way. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, that's just a number. We're talking about it. How bad do we want it? What's going to be coming down the road with the PCE cleanup. So, anyway, it's a number we can start talking about. Maybe the district can be part of that. Just the component, the material itself is about $10,000 for an 8-inch valve.
You're doing this for them, it's to their benefit, it seems like they ought to pay for it.
Yeah, we've been talking to Paul about that. That's kind of what we're thinking, of course. So we'll put the cost together and talk about the options and bring that back to the board in the future. Last item is the California Tahoe Alliance. This is really a regional group. You know, it's a district. It's QRP is really a facilitator. It's North Tahoe PUD, it's Tahoe City PUD, it's El Dorado and Placer counties, and the league is also involved in this. Tahoe Resource Conservation District is also part of this. And so it's basically, it's a regional coalition. We team with the lobbyists in Sacramento, raise our profile in Sacramento, tell them about the district issues and the regional issues, and of course we're searching for funding ultimately. So had a meeting a couple days ago, met with all those folks. We're currently receiving applications for, we're looking at 4 applications for a lobbying effort in Sacramento. So trying to make a selection. I think this is really a valuable partnership. You know, these regional partnerships are really valuable when you go back to Sacramento. And the California Tahoe Alliance is really the California equivalent of the federally based Tahoe Alliance. So that'll give you a little bit of perspective. In the past, we've spent about, I believe, $12,000 per year as our part of this partnership. So I think that's probably worth it, but we'll select the consulting, get some cost proposals, I'll bring that back to the board. And when we're going around the table talking about the main issues, I mean, I pushed a couple main issues from the district standpoint. It's needing money for fire flow infrastructure and also funding for sewer system improvements in our most sensitive environments, as Randy alluded to, our sewer lines running through SEZs and underneath rivers. And that's my report.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, let's move on to staff attorney report. Stephen, you're up the bat again. Back to the board.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to you today about our water audit results. This is one of the fairly recent regulations that has come from Sacramento about every urban water retailer of a certain size has to do an annual water audit to see, basically help quantify our losses, and then that will lead into some regulations on water loss and what we can actually lose in their minds, basically. So a little bit of background. This is Senate Bill 555. It was signed into law in October 2015. And the first water audit had to be submitted in October 2017 that covered the 2016 calendar year. Between when it was signed into law in October 2017, the state did have provide some funds for a program that allowed people to go through this, get familiar with the water audit. They had a series of workshops. Several of us attended those workshops to get familiar with the upcoming regulations and what it would look like. And then they also validated our first water audit. It's one of the parts of the regulation is it has to be validated by an outside entity. So the first year was free. Every year after that is not free. It ran us about $2,500 for this last year to get the validation of our water audit. So then after they had basically a year or two of data, they started moving into the informal rulemaking process. And so there's been 4 public stakeholder work group meetings that they have gone through. I've attended 2 of them in person and 2 of them by webinar. The last one was just last Friday down in Sacramento, where they actually gave a framework of what their proposed regulations are and got some feedback on those. And so I did get some feedback on some of the things that could impact us. At this point, I'm not going to go much further into that, just because it's an informal process and how it will impact us is still unclear exactly. But the formal rulemaking process will start in July of this year, and they have to have the regulations adopted by July of 2020. And so from that point on, there will be things that we have to do to comply with these water loss regulations. And basically, they're going to give us a volume of water on a volume per connection that we can lose on an annual basis. So, the results of the water audit. So basically, this is data that I pulled from the state. They published the results. It's from 385 water suppliers around the state, and there's some key performance indicators. I put both the median and the mean for the state, and then what ours were for our 2016 water audit and our 2017 water audit. So you can see if there was any changes in ours, and actually ours were fairly consistent, honestly. But if you look at the data, the real losses per service connection per day, which is really what it sounds like that's where they're headed for on the regulations, that's the metric we're going to be looking at. We are definitely don't look so good compared to the median of the state. Infrastructure leakage index is just a measurement of basically your losses versus an idealized system, because there's always some losses that you can't avoid. But so they say there can be some. Here's what your system is. They do a ratio, and again, we're quite a bit higher than the mean and the median of the state. The good news is our cost of water. Our cost of water is cheap compared to a lot of places. I mean, we don't have to import it. All we have to do is pump it out of the ground and stick some chlorine in it, and that's our cost. We don't have huge reservoirs. We don't have huge conveyance systems. We're not buying it from like Metropolitan Water District or anything like that. So the regulations do have an economic model that they're supposed to do that for each water supplier. So they're supposed to take into consideration the cost of your water as well as the cost of the local cost, the local economy. How they will do that for Tahoe, I'm not entirely sure yet. They haven't unveiled that portion yet. There'll be one more workshop to talk about that. But because of that, it could mean that we have a higher loss target than someone who has, say, expensive water, and could recoup more of that cost of their lost water. So our NRW is non-revenue water. As a percent of our total operating cost is also is about half of what the state median is. So that will help us. The other metric that I've included in here is what they call the data validity grade. So there's a whole bunch of data that goes into this water audit. And based on what your data is and how you collected that, there's different practices within the industry, and you get scored on that. And so that all gets compiled into an overall score out of 100. And as you can see, we're slightly below on that, but we went up from 50 to 54 between the 2 years, and that's mainly due just to the fact that we are metering more of our system. So as we get fully metered, I expect that number to continue to trend upward, and we'll probably get pretty close to what the median and the mean are as we state at this point. This is actually just a kind of a graphical representation of the distribution of results and kind of pointing out where we are as opposed to the rest of the state. And as you can see, we are on the wrong side right now of the distribution, and I suspect there will be some things that we will have to do to push ourselves more to the left on this. And so, kind of actually sort of have already talked a lot about these next steps. The permanent water loss regulations will be issued by July 2020. The draft proposal was released 2 weeks ago. I went to the workshop last week down in Sacramento and gave feedback about several items that impact the district. We are currently reviewing the proposal from the state and providing comments to the state. And we will also provide comments with associated with AQUA during the formal rulemaking process. So that's all I had. Any questions?
So when we're fully metered, do you expect that we'll be able to identify more leaks and really cut that down?
It will help, but with our soils up here, a lot of our leaks don't ever surface. So we may be able to identify that, hey, there's an area of our system that we're putting more water in than we're actually consuming, but then narrowing down where that is.
Meters won't really help that.
They don't really help that.
We'll just get a better number.
Exactly. So
in the ground.
we will be able to, I think, focus our efforts on finding leaks a little better once we're fully metered. And we also have some infrastructure that we have to put in like our booster stations and maybe some of our POVs as well to help those areas get smaller. And we have an asset management program that we've identified for district metered areas as well that would break the system down into smaller areas, and then you can, it basically, I don't say bite size, but much easier to look at than looking at the system as a whole. It's essentially our state line zone. I mean, if we know it's going in there, but trying to find a leak in that zone is really difficult at this point. So,
well, to me, the good part about it is that not that it's good that that's being wasted is the dollar amount.
Yes.
Because I mean, we use groundwater. It leaks back into the groundwater. It's not a waste other than the cost of production, which is fairly low on our part.
Correct.
So,
Yeah. So I'm hopeful that with that factor in, that our target will be a little bit less than some of the other people will have to meet.
It seems like the cost of reducing water loss will far outweigh the cost of the water loss. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does make sense. They did say that there is a potential for a situation where you won't have to do anything, because they are supposed to look at the economically recoverable water loss. And so if you've got cheap water and it's going to cost you, millions of dollars to recover $100,000 a year, that may never pencil out. They are supposed to look at it from a life cycle perspective, though, so I think they'll be looking at it over a 30 or 50-year time frame. So that will be factored in as well.
Well, I thought I might add one thing. We're looking at leak detection equipment. So they can be mobile or stationary, but basically it's acoustic leak detection apparatus. You hook these the systems up to a valve or a hydrant and let it sit there for some period of time, a day or perhaps weeks, and it basically listens for leaks. And with 2 locations, it can identify where on the lot, where in between those 2 hydrants, for example, you may have a leak. So it listens over time, looks for frequencies, and this is a sales pitch, but we're going to test some of this out with a pilot study this year. But you could potentially say 204 feet from this hydrant and 320 feet from the next hydrant, look for a leak in that area. So I think that has a lot of promise in this area.
And that is one of the phases of the regulations that they're proposing. It's from 2023 to 2027. It's sort of a pilot phase that would be, they expect everyone to be, if they're not already, piloting some of these technologies to figure out what will work for you to help you meet your target of water loss number.
Ultimately, this is tied in with the state's effort of water conservation, right?
There's overlap and it's intertwined and it's
what would be the purpose of this program, right? On a statewide basis.
It actually came out before that, but they've incorporated it into it.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I just go back to if we cease water production, no one in California would benefit. And if we did tenfold in our water production, no one in California would be hurt. So, again, I'm not advocating waste or leaking but I'm also looking at practicality and dollars.
They said, they did make the statement that they would take water scarcity into the number, which made me think, well, we don't have any water scarcity necessarily in our basin, in our area, so do we really want to try to fight that battle again? But I think we tried that with the water conservation direction and weren't successful.
You try.
Out of curiosity, when you look at the median mean from the state, what you looking at? What is the rationale that you see for a huge deviance from those mean and median? Is it just age, how it was built, soils, just a combination of all these things?
I think a lot of it has to do with how it was built. A lot of these systems are actually a lot newer than ours, or were, built not by mom and pop shops, for lack of a better term. So I think there's a lot of that. I think our climate also can play a big factor into it, that we have conditions that most of the people in the state don't see.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, you have a helping hands up there, you said?
Yes, this will be really brief. I think most of you are aware that in addition to the customer care program, which is a program that provides the 20% discount to our low-income ratepayers, we have a program called the Helping Hands Outreach Program. And it actually provides financial assistance to some of our ratepayers to help them actually pay their bill directly. It's not utilized very much, but what's remarkable about this program, it's actually funded with donations from staff and district employees as well as other customers. And in 2018, actually only 2 people requested the assistance of it, although we advertise it quite frequently in the district newsletter, I believe. But currently, the balance in the program is just under $7,500. And yeah, in 2018, the 2 customers that requested the assistance utilized $553,000. But since this program's inception, which was in 1998, we've actually provided financial assistance in the amount of $55,700 to our customers. That's it.
You mean 500?
What did I say?
You said
$553.
Yeah. I kind of figured there's a decimal place in there.
Using more zeros.
Somehow we came up with that additional funding of up to $7,500.
Okay.
Additional staff report.
Sure, yeah, anything else?
Yeah.
Chris?
Chris has a couple items.
Yeah, I saw we had some pictures, Chris. Actually, I'm gonna let Ivy take the lead on this one, and I'm here for backup, and let Brick be involved also.
Hi, I'm Ivy, underground sewer repair lead. We came across a little issue. We headed out in front of you, out on Emerald and Keys. We have a little inflow from the groundwater. We re-TV'd it this morning. This is the picture on the very back. This has not been cleaned. This is a picture of what it looks like. There's a lot of grease, probably maybe even some, what are they saying?
I think we call it incrustation, where it's the minerals coming out of the water kind of build up on the pipe. Kind of tough to tell from the camera whether it's all grease or whether we're getting any incrustation there from that infiltration. But
after talking with Chris, we decided not to clean it. We thought maybe we'd either open up the hole a little bit more and maybe possibly bring in some more sand. At the moment, we're just going to look at many options we have to maybe mining, freezing, sort of grout. We're going to keep an eye on this, TV once a week, and we have a video of what we saw this morning.
And I think, could you tell us how you decided there was a problem out there in the first place?
Yeah, I was just curious, was this routine TV work you found it?
We were doing, back in September, a lot of TV with the Pano, the new camera, and we sent out this to be coded, and it came back to us.
within the last couple of weeks, and so it was just Monday, I was kind of looking through a few different pipes and scrolling through some of the video, and it just kind of showed up as this kind of white blip, and we started taking a close look, and then Ivy's crew went out there today and took a really close look with the pan and tilt camera, the older camera, where you can actually slow down and take the video So that's what we're going to show you today. But as you can see from the handouts that map there on the second page, the satellite view, it's right there where the lagoons kind of come together. So it's not surprising that there's real high groundwater and groundwater pushing its way in. So we don't have any idea of what caused this hole, but not surprised that there's a lot of water coming in. And of course, the concern is that it's similar to what we saw in the Tahoe a couple of years ago, where as the water comes in, it's bringing sand in with it, and there's some sort of void behind that. And so that's going to be definitely something for consideration as we figure out how to repair this. What do we do with that void that's outside the pipe now? So here's a little video of, so you kind of see the water coming in.
This is an 8-inch line as well.
Fairly high flow, looks like to me.
So it looks like at about 4 o'clock is where it's really coming.
Yeah, so it's just below that water line, so we can't get a real good look at it without, we've talked about potentially plugging up the line so that it drains out a little bit and then setting the camera, some different options to get a better look at it. But this video was just from this morning, so developing issue out there.
This looks like about the same as it was in September.
Yeah, it's tough to tell because the one from September is the scan, so you don't have that video to see kind of the wide water movement.
So that would tell me, though, that was before the wet season, so that would tell me that the groundwater is always up at this area.
Yeah, and where it is, we're 12 feet deep.
Oh, yeah.
And that water is probably...
12 feet in the Keys, yeah.
Yeah, the water's probably touching, so it's,
It couldn't be 4.
What level did you hit water when you were over on Venice with that big job? You remember?
About 2, 3.
About 2, 3 feet, yeah.
so, we won't be digging down to it, by the way.
Yeah.
I'll just add a couple things here. On the one page from September 26th, you've noticed there is no grease there, and you notice there is no coupling either. So it basically looks like a crack or some kind of hole in the side of the pipe.
Yeah, it's not at a joint. You know, a lot of times we see water coming in at joints at a lateral, so there's nothing in that pipe that shows why this was caused. And since it's below the water level, we can't see what's really going on there.
So, a little update here, what we're going to do is, they touched on it a minute ago, on the back page you see all the grease and the buildup. Right now that doesn't appear to be too restrictive in the sewer line itself, so what we're going to do is, I don't want to go in there with a hydro unit just yet. I'm afraid if we do, you get the stream of water out the side of the pipe, that may open up the void even bigger and start drawing in sand or something like that. So what we're going to do is, well, let me back up. One, what we're doing is we're looking on what we can do to line it. We're going to reach out to ProPipe, see if they can even line something like this with that amount of water coming in. Julie and Steve and Trevor, we were talking earlier, there's also some different things out there, and Jim, you touched on it earlier too, where you can go down on the side of the pipes and inject a foam. Or there's also another thing where you could go in and maybe try to freeze the groundwater. Julie's touched on that a few times in the past, and I think it's a very good idea. So we're going to look into that. In the meantime, what we're going to do is maybe for the first week or two, we'll just camera this again once a week to keep an eye on it. If it looks okay, then maybe we'll back off, do it every couple weeks. But it's going to be one of those things where we need to do right away. So I'm sure we'll be back talking to you about things coming up, but I don't want this to turn into another Keys project, and I'm afraid if this continues on, gets worse, and starts sinking, especially between the two lagoons, I have a feeling it's going to be worse than what we saw at the Keys. So we're going to work as fast as we can with whatever ideas we can come up with to get this done without having to dig it. I don't want to dig unless absolutely
have to.
Is this one the Keys pump station or is this Venice?
San Moritz.
San Moritz?
It's just about a block and a half away from San Moritz.
Okay.
And there's about
The line flows there too.
Yeah, there's about 152 customers upstream of this.
And you can explain a little bit about the bypass if it does collapse.
Yeah, so the bypass, that's manhole to manhole is about 415 feet. So that's what the bypass would look like, is similar to what we had before. Pull out one manhole, dump into the manhole downstream. So pretty significant effort there if it does get worse. But
What does this picture tell you about the top of that pipeline? Does it look okay?
the top of the pipe looks pretty good, and from September, you can see it pretty well because they had cleaned it in September right before they TV'd it, and so it's a little rough surface, but it's not, there's no obvious cracking or anything like that, so.
On this map, if you look at this one, it's just north of Marconi, but if you look at the other one, it looks like it's just north of Marconi.
It's just south of Marconi, north of, I think it's Garmisch.
Okay, so
Right there.
so it's not where this arrow is on this picture? Or is that just showing which way the look?
Yeah, Marconi's, this is Marconi, so Marconi and Garmisch, so it's just south of
Okay.
Marconi.
Okay,
So there's that other, it comes together again down lower, but
okay, all right.
so it's about a block and a half up from Venice.
I'm glad we found it. I don't know what you're gonna do about it, but I'm glad you guys are on it.
It works. So would this not have been possible prior to obtaining the camera equipment? In finding this leak so quickly?
We've been moving a lot faster with the new truck and new equipment, so the odds of getting into more pipes and being able to see this stuff we saw a lot more pipes last year than we have seen in the past year.
A great effort and great to identify this early on, both to remove the hassle for the people that live adjacent to that area, but also the overall district costs that are going to be associated with whatever remediation effort needs to take place. This is terrific, so yeah, great job.
My concern is how many more are out there. You've got 7% of the pipes, that means 93% have not been looked at, and especially in the Keys and other areas that where it's, near the meadows and it's water, below water level full time. They're disintegrating from the inside and the outside.
We'll keep looking.
Thank you. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I have one more short thing here.
You never come up with
I've been doing pretty good. I haven't had to come up here very often. And unfortunately, it's always something bad, seems like. This is just basically a heads up for you guys. Yesterday, we had a call from a customer, and it was a low-pressure complaint for their water. And I sent the crew out there, Tony and his crew went out there and looked around, and long story short, she did have low pressure, so the guys pulled the meter out to check and make sure that's one of our common things we do first off. We pull the meter, make sure we're not frozen, or we have some kind of blockage in our line, at the property line. So the guys pulled out the meter, and we were gonna put a pressure gauge on it to see what the pressure was on it. Well, on top of the meter riser, there's a valve, and then we also have a curb stop that's about a foot behind the meter pit. So the guys were on the curb stop, and they shut it off, took the meter out, and they turned it back on to kind of flush out the meter before we put the gauge on. Well, if you guys are pretty familiar with the meter riser, they come up, and then the meter fits in between them. Water only goes one way. It comes down and goes to your house, and that's how it reads through the meter. This one yesterday, when they turned it on, had water coming both ways. It was coming out both ends. So, right there was a red flag for us. So, what I did is I had the crew dig up the meter. And they dug it up yesterday afternoon, and what we found was they had gone in and put an illegal bypass around the meter.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
Careful who you call.
So that's the question of today, because if this lady called you, she probably didn't know it was there.
Well, somebody knew it was there.
Well, she's just the worst criminal of all time.
Yeah, and that could be, yeah.
Yeah, let's just say that I have my doubts about
Yeah.
the story I was being told, let's put it that way. But I wanted to give you guys a heads up, when we dug it up, they'd actually just passed the curb stop and installed a plastic T with hose clamps. Well, we haven't done that in years, so this was a mom and pop store down the street where they got this T. They had a poly line with a valve that went around the meter pit and came back in. So what they were doing was, this was all buried, but on top of the meter riser itself, there's a valve that you shut off and you can take the meter out. They were pinching that down to where it was almost closed. And by doing that, you still allowed a little bit of water to go through the meter, but the majority was going around. So, I just wanted to give you a heads up. I don't believe we've come across anything like this yet. So, this happened yesterday, so we just need a little time as far as how we want to approach this. But I didn't want you guys going out in public and having somebody talk about it and you had no idea what was going on.
So you haven't notified the owner of...
Oh, I notified her yesterday.
Oh, that you're aware of their game?
Yes, yes. Yeah, it was an interesting conversation, let's put it that way. Yes.
So does that count toward water loss reduction?
It does count as water loss.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
That's water loss.
But, you guys were talking earlier with Tim about this, smart meter system that we have here where we can see what's going on. And we did go and talk to Jessica about it, and you can clearly see that for a year or two, it was a high water use. And then for all of a sudden, for the last few years, it's been a real negative water use. In other words, Friday and Saturday and Sunday, it actually showed 0 water use, and the lady told me she was home all weekend taking showers, doing dishes, laundry, and it showed 0 all weekend.
Not the service.
How long did she own the house?
A long time, from what I understand.
So, Tim, I got a question for you. In our ordinance, I mean, this is actually a theft of service, this is a theft of our product.
Yeah.
What is our typical procedure? Do we actually do anything on the legal front, or do we just look the other way? I mean, I'm just curious.
I was talking to Gary about that earlier. There isn't anything actually in our admin code about it, but I think there is some.
There are some provisions in the civil code regarding theft and tampering with district facilities, and there's fairly significant penalties that can be assessed for it. So I told Tim and Chris I would forward some of that information to them to take a look at.
Yeah, I mean, I have to think about this, because I don't know, is this one of those things where we want to actually kind of get it out there and say, this is what will happen if you do this kind of stuff?
Or backcharge for all the work you did to try to get the meter and figure out what was going on.
Would you like to know what I would do?
Yeah.
That would be the start right there. I would charge for everything we did yesterday, the equipment, the manpower, pretty substantial, and then if it was me, I would treat it like something else.
Well, so that's the thing, then if they don't pay it, are we allowed to enforce that, or do we have to say, okay, you don't want to play, we're going to go ahead and prosecute this?
I mean, I think how you could play this out is you provide it forward with you're going to recoup the district for money lost as a result of your circumventing the system. And then if they squawk at that, then you take the next step and threaten civil action with the abilities we have here at the district utilizing the existing civil code. Something tells me if you provide that type of incentive in the front end as it relates to the district's economic clout going against them in civil proceedings, they might have their come to the light moment.
Realize this just happened yesterday. This is the first time that I know we run across something like this buried. So I think at this point, if we had a couple days to sit down and all of us talk and go over some things. I think I have a better answer for you next board meeting, to tell you the truth.
I just wanted to put that out there to see what our options are.
I agree, Chris, I agree with you 100%. I'd like to take a look at some of the things we can do like that. This is new, we haven't had a lot of chance to go and dig into it, but if you would like, next board meeting, we can come up and kind of give you a report or something after we kind of decide what we can and can't do. Trevor did find today, California legislative information, and this actually does address utilities, electrical, water. It even mentions in here about meters, that by altering the meter like they did, it's basically a California misdemeanor against the law. Kind of a lot, but there are things in place, but we just need a little bit of time to discuss what our options can be and what we can and can't do. So,
Nice to know if we can find them more than just what it cost us, you know, a civil fine.
and that's one of the things that we're looking into, but like I said, we haven't had a real chance to all sit down and have a good lengthy conversation about it.
Do you think our ordinances cover it enough, or?
From what-
State?
From just a quick conversation that Chris and I had, and also with Tim, I don't think you have the penalties and so forth built into your admin code right now, but I know a lot of districts have different steps for violations of different types, and assesses penalties for the first time, the second time, so that there's a deterrent.
We ought to try and look at something.
I think that was one thing we quickly talked about, was to put our heads together.
We never, until the past, 10 years, we never had meters, so this was never an issue, so that's probably why it's not in our code.
We had meters on commercial property.
On commercial, but yeah, so that.
Nobody blatantly doing something like this. But, and I have a feeling this is gonna continue.
Yes,
It may not be a lot, but I have a
So
feeling.
this might be worthwhile, is actually looking into putting it into our code.
Well, now that you bring that up, Tim and I and Shannon have been working together over the last month or two. When we come across something, we're seeing that our code is kind of open-ended on it. So we've got a list going right now of things that we would like to address in our admin code. And instead of Tim doing them by himself, trying to do the wording and everything, him and I were talking this morning that maybe we should make up a 3 or 4 man committee here, all sit down and have Gary's input and maybe get some ideas from other utilities around California, how they implement stuff and how we can incorporate it into ours also. So it's gonna be a timely process, but we realize the need to address it also.
Eric, you have a comment?
Yeah, my thought is, to go back to that customer point in time that the change took place, it would be worthwhile to try and find out if they did it themselves or if they had somebody do it for them. If they had somebody do it for them, you've got a target for going and trying to get records of whoever else they might have done work for since that date, and give yourself a starting point to analyzing water usage records and potentially going after other people.
A couple things here. One, we did look back on the records. We could see where the high use was and then where it cut off. And it's been a few years, 2013. And then yesterday I did ask who ran, they had to have a new service ran from the house out to the meter. So I asked who was the person that did it. All I got was a song and dance. Nobody would give me a name, because that was my first thought, who installed it.
Well, under threat of litigation, you might get more cooperation.
Yes. But like I said, we haven't had a chance to look at it, so I just wanted to make sure you guys all had a heads up, so you didn't hear it out.
Were they doing a remodel, is that why?
Pardon me?
Were they doing a remodel in the house because they ran a new line?
No, the service was just moved.
It's just the service, not...
Yeah, it came in one way, we moved it around to another side of the house. So if you'd like, I'll come back, like I said, in the next board meeting, give you more of an update.
If there's no significant move in next board meeting, you could put it off till you have something significant to report also.
Okay, but like I said, I want to make sure you guys don't want you out there not knowing what's going on.
Okay, thanks. So, how about other staff reports, anything?
I have one little thing. Shelley has arranged to have board photos taken on our March 7th board meeting so that all of our photos are consistent on the website.
I like using the ones that like 8, 10 years old, because they look better. I agree.
Some are really small, some are on the ear, outside, all over the place. So we thought it might be nice to just have some consistency. We have new staff that need photos, so it would be senior management and the board, possibly Gary. And so that would be done from 1:30 to 2 on the 7th. I think it looks like everyone's supposed to be here on that date. So we would ask you to show up early, and we'll try to get people through as quickly as possible. The photographer will be here in the boardroom. Yeah, you want to dress up?
Yeah, John thought picture day was today.
Yeah, you're back at 5. Okay, well, as usual, you know you have to babysit us, so just send us an email a couple of days ahead of time for Dan, and let us know. Okay, you can see past and future meetings. If there's no other questions or comments or whatever, let's go out of open session, and you want to take a couple minutes, and we'll go into closed session right after that. Into open session reporting. Meeting adjourned.